me and John, were drinking some Smirnoffs and stuff and singing this theme song to SpongeBob. And next thing I know, we pull over and I was like, oh man, we have to walk home. And next thing I know, this guy gets in the back of the van. So clearly we didn't do our job of guarding the gear. And we're like, who the hell are you? And apparently this guy was hitchhiking to Israel. True story. And I was like, well, I think you took, a wrong turn at Tel Aviv. Just playing sober was so weird. Because I was like, man, that's how that song goes. I actually apologized to these guys. I'm like, I'm really sorry 8 years ago that I was playing the song in the wrong key. But I showed them proof that I had a house key, so I was halfway to having a key and staying. It ended up being Baked Fridays for a summer, and it clearly fit, with the Baked Friday agenda because, brothers and kids empowering discipleship. We got to spread our word of music. Thank you. I guess the thing that inspired me, I'd seen friends of mine, they were playing guitars. And I was like, that looks kind of cool. But I took piano lessons and I decided that after 6 weeks of chopsticks, I really didn't feel comfortable playing the same 17 notes in a row in front of a choir with no cookies. So, therefore, I tried to play drums, like yourself, except, you did much more successful than I. And they told me I had to count to 4, and dude, I can't count to 2 like these two fingers. So I picked up, finally got a guitar, paper out, blah blah, and it was cool. And Scott Likens and Chris Watts, I think Scott Etherton was there. This just jamming some stuff, man. I was just like the guy in the background. I was like, man, these dudes are good. And then they ended up at the Vietnam Bunkers Club in Sunnyland. And they're like, hey man, can you play 3 chords? I'm like, well, I've had a guitar for 2 weeks. Can you tune it? And I will do the best. And it was and we played that for like 20 minutes and Scott was soloing and stuff. Man, it was so cool. And they kind of looked at us, but at the age of 16, when they hand you a draft beer for 3 chords, I decided that this is the avenue I was going to pursue at the present time. And band, I decided that I wanted to try my hand at band mischief right off the bat with a bunch of friends of mine. So, like one time we were driving and I backed into a house. But we put the trim back up and the guitar stayed in tune. So what's more important, you can get trim anywhere. But the guitar must always stay in tune, right? We played the variety show. We decided to run with the devil. Me and Chris Watts and Bobby Bullock and Roland Millington sang. And it was like Run with the Devil and all this kind of from the beginning. And that was all cool. And it was a good time, we took her up somewhere. And it just kind of went from there. Just gathering equipment and just trying to play. Everybody else, we used to take gigs and everybody else would be at the dance, in their nice tuxedos and their hair and all that. I'd be in South Beacon playing music, So my dances were different because it was covered with beer and whatever the things that Old Louis Scout had to offer, besides a good time. So that was kind of the high school part of it. So I was jamming with some dudes in Lakin. Todd Davis, me and Chris Watts and Roland Millington were out there. And we were just like playing the regular, cover and stuff. But man, I couldn't play a lead for nothing. I didn't even have a house key, let alone be able to, play in key. But then this one dude showed up, Scott Tower, they called him Sid Ripster. And, he come over and, he's like, hey man, play the rhythm of this. I'm like, well, okay, sure. So I'm playing the rhythm and he's, playing all this whacked out, cool, crazy stuff. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna play chords. So, we jammed and stuff and it was way cool. And we got these songs down and we played the Battle of the Bands at Thrills. It's where across from where Landmark is. I don't know what it is now. I think it's a seedy bingo joint. Let's go with that. And we played a lot, and we won the competition. And fortunately, all those fake checks I wrote to the judges never cleared, and we skipped town. But we got to get some recording time up at Barn Burners in Anawan, and it was me, Todd Davis, and Scott Tower, Mark Keister, and Kevin Bishop. And we recorded 2 original songs. And it was like, that's wrong. Sorry. But, and, it was so much fun going up there. I mean, me and Keister got rear-ended by a car and came back home later on, played the disc. It was so cool. And, we played a few gigs from there. And they ended up giving Timmy Fires play drums. Like, awesome drummer, man. Van Halen guy, and Led Zeppelin totally. Just what a way cool dude. Awesome drummer. And they went on from there, and I kind of formed another band called Wicked Cottonmouth with Jay Tondre, and Andy Broke played bass, and Jungle Jim King played drums. And, we got some stuff together and played some gigs at like Dirty Gems and stuff. And, we played the... I don't know what the name of that song is. And... we played all over, and it was a good time, and everybody seemed to like the name, even though they'd always just put like Wicked Cotton on the marquee. And I didn't know if they thought we were just a deranged laundromat, but it was a good time, and Wicked Cottonmouth, thank you, Kim Winger Mazzarelli, for the name. Awesome name. What a cool chick. And, we played from there and stuff, and Sean Resters played drums, Andy Broke, played bass and all that. And we did that for a while, played off the Ivanhoe. And I discovered this drink called Jägermeister in small portions. And, we kind of went from there. And then I joined a band called Reckless with John Bryan, John Bryan, I think, has taught me the most out of anybody. He was so cool, man. We go over there and he's like, here, play that. And we did that. And by that time, I was kind of exploring playing leads and stuff. And they were gigging, playing Chances Are, which I love Chances Are. It was such a great gig, and there was this place next to it called the Sharon Motel, which I don't think Robin Leach ever visited it, but it was such a fun time. And we played all over Havana and stuff, and we played this, making up songs. It was just such a good time, with all the fun stuff. So I took a small hiatus. And I played for a very short time with a band called Simon Bar Sinister. Brian Goodlick, Andy Webb, Matt Warner, Murray Ice. What a good time. Banner Marsh, all these fun places. And man, the parking lot in Banner Marsh was so uneven, but it was so much fun. So, what are you going to do, right? So then I went to this open stage downtown. I heard of this place called Champs on Main. I was like, man, I've heard about this place. It's so cool. And I went in, and guy behind the bar, Mark Carnell. He's like, hey dude, you want a Captain and Coke? Didn't even know him. And I'm like, sure. So I had a Captain and Coke. He goes, hey, it's open stage. I'm like, well, that's cool. So I had a few more and played some songs like Paranoid and some Van Halen stuff, and just kind of left it at that. I think we drove across the bridge to get home. Makes sense. And so then their guitar player couldn't make it, and Mark asked me, he goes, hey, dude, you want to come in and fill in? I'm like, man, I don't know if I know all your songs, but yeah, I'll give it a shot. And they kind of helped me out, but it was, we played. All this cool stuff that I'd heard, but I'd never really played. And it was, a whole different thing. But then they're like, hey, have you ever drank Jägermeister? I'm like, maybe once, which is a lie. And we started drinking and having a good time and playing. And next thing I know, man, I'm playing down there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. We call it a bake stock. And that was me and Mark Carnell, Rob Robinson, and John Patty were playing. And, and eventually, Mark would bartend and sing. He had this microphone on, and man, he was bartending and singing, and it was just nuts. And then, John Patty, he left the band for a short time. That's when Dustin Waters came along. That kid I met way back when, man. What a cool kid. Awesome drummer, just a blast. We hit it right off, man. And we were playing all these gigs. We played New Year's Eve one time. We played from 11 p.m. to noon. Yeah, that's 13 hours. And I think we played Fly Me Courageous like 7 times because we were running out of material. But, there's this Crown Royal and butterscotch mixed together make misdemeanors. And if you drink 20 of them over a period of time, it tends to keep you going among other things. So we played all that, and it was a lot of fun. And I remember leaving the bar with such a headache that I grabbed a handful of snow and a handful of ibuprofen and just kind of the combo and went home. And for until we had a gig like 2 nights later, same place. But the Rivermen would show up, man. Whew. The Canadians knew how to drink and party. On this is the time they were winning the cup, and I was out on the ice with the cup. That was a strange story the news never covered. But they brought the cup into the bar, and they filled it full of Jägermeister, and we were drinking out of it, trying to play. And for the record, if you're playing Seek and Destroy and drinking Jägermeister out of this trophy, it doesn't go well. But it's fun, entertaining, and people clapped and gave us money. So then, Rick Henderson came into the picture. And I was like, man, I've heard this dude. And he sang in, and we're, doing our thing. And the Barflies was born with me and Rick and Mark and John Patty at first. Club Blues, played some infirmary gigs. We opened up for George Lynch and Rat and Stephen Piercy of Rat, because there was 2 Rats, kind of like a union sometimes. So we did all those gigs. Then, Mark had to do his thing with going to school and stuff. So I was like, hey, Nathan, man. Pete said, hey, you want to join a band? It'll be fun. We'll play gigs and drink. And he's like, well, yeah, man. So Nathan joined the band, and, man, it just blew up. And I'd seen the last interview with him with the trays of shots, and he was not exaggerating. Gary Thorne, 3 bottles of Jägermeister. And we found out that if you take Jägermeister and Crown Royal and tequila and drink them all together, that the Czechoslovakians and the Canadians and the Mexicans all get together, it starts a civil war inside your head. So I don't recommend that for anybody, But we had such a good time playing with the Barflies. We did the Riverfront gigs and stuff. And the Madison Theater, I forgot to mention, me and Dustin at the Madison Theater, and we went backstage and we seen Creed, and Mark Tremonti, I was like, wow, there's that dude that plays, My Own Prison or whatever. And I was like, hey, dude, man, cool guitar tone, what are you using? And he's like, you'll read about it in Guitar World. So obviously I felt grateful that he felt I could read, so I was in his presence with an education. So there's that. But we're sitting there watching, we drank their beer, because, he was kind of an asshole. And there's this lady behind us, she's like, you! And I don't consider myself a female sheep, but I responded. I was like, yeah? And she goes, give me a cigarette. What is this? So I lit her a cigarette with my left nostril, and I handed it to her, and she smoked it, and she was mean to us first, okay? So a few years later, I'm watching this behind the music, and there's this chick. I'm like, man, she's really went downhill since that cigarette. So blame me for the departure of Creed. It's okay. I'll take it. And Kenny Wayne Shepherd, man, what a jerk. We drank all this Corona. He deserved it. So, between Barflies and Bake and the occasional Reckless gig, I just stayed busy 5 nights a week, And me and Rick Henderson, geez, what some fun we had. Always driving home from Streeter, I'd be like half passed out. And he stops on the side of the road. He goes, Jeff, scale that telephone pole and get that flag. So I did. I climbed up and I got this American flag. It was around Memorial Day, and we threw it in the back of the van. It was good job. And we took off, and I get home and I wake up the next day and there's this big flag. And I was like, looked outside, and I didn't see any, people coming after the flag, so I kept it. It's around here somewhere. And, just playing in Streeter. I met a lot of great people in Streeter. Billy Allfield, the owner, and his mom and dad, Dennis and Kim. Just what a great time. And you know, the whole Champs on Main thing, getting back to that, those are like the two best places ever in that era. You know, Mark's brother, Jimmy Carnell, owned the place. And just all kinds of such good times, you know. And as far as the music goes, you know, we played all the stuff you hear on the radio. With, you know, there was lots of improv, and guys like Mike Means would come down. And I'd be like, wow, man, this dude's really cool, and he's good, and he was so much fun. God, so much fun. We just, you know, played for like 4 or 5 nights a week for like 2-3 years. And sometimes when you drink too much Jägermeister, this is what I heard from a friend of mine that looks like me, that you take this white garbage bag and you climb a tree and claim that tree for your country. I wasn't surrendering, I was creating my own flag. And a cop kind of looks at me, points his gun, which I don't think was loaded, and asked me to get down, and I got down and handed him the garbage bag, and then I ran like hell. But yeah, you know, and just lots of stuff like that. I mean, God, I could go on for hours, but I don't think the network has that kind of time, and our advertising is way through the roof. So, you know, it's all good. But yeah, that was some seriously crazy stories. Now, we need to write a book. Henderson and I have talked about it. Writing this book, you know, chapter 1, the Barfly's years, and Billy Allfield giving me the shot called a dog nut. I know I'm dwelling on alcohol a lot, but you know, we never really got into the other stuff. I mean, you know, there was a lot of cocaine and stuff going on. It smelled nice, but you know, it just wasn't for us. So, and you know, I really couldn't, you know, mix the, you know, we'd smoke in our spare time just to unwind, you know, because, you know, we studied for our drug tests, and by God, we passed them. So, for a short time on Mondays, myself, Brian Dennison, Kevin Hine, and John Eaton, God bless John Eaton, one of the greatest human beings on the face of this earth, man. We had this gig on Mondays called SOPs on the corner of Main and that other road that runs by Main. Madison. Thank you, Madison. And we had a Special Patrol Group, which if any of you have watched The Young Ones, Special Patrol Group was the hamster off The Young Ones. So, you know, you'd be like, oh no, floppy disk, and Vivian would be like, I don't know what to do with this hamster because it keeps getting stuck in the toaster. And we kind of did impersonations and stuff, and strange night, we were playing the gig, you know, and I had this shirt on that had a 5 leaves of each plant on the shirt. It's called marijuana. Any of you that have heard about it. And I'm playing, and everybody's just staring at us, and I'm like, you know. So on break, I kind of go out there, and I'm like, you know, just up to some random guy. I'm like, hey man, you know what? You guys want to hear something else? I mean, you guys just looking at us. He goes, yeah, we're from the DEA convention across the street. And it was at that time that I realized my favorite song was Whiter Shade of Pale by Procol Harum, which I'd liked for a while, but that fit. And he just kind of laughed at us, man. He goes, oh, you guys are good, man. You guys are playing great. We're just, you know, we're after the mayhem and all other stuff. Yeah, keep your thing. So that's the Special Patrol Group story. Only played SOPs, but man, so much fun. Jeez. So I took this hiatus. You know, I found out one day that I was going to be a father. I was like, oh. So took the hiatus, you know. I think I played gigs until my daughter was born, the second of my kids. And, you know, then I just, after she was born, I kind of picked her up and I was like, well, I better get my shit together because, well, this is where it's at, you know, the family and everything. So I stopped drinking and stopped gigging right there. And, you know, that was 2005. So I did the family thing, hiatus and stuff, and, you know, in the tale of all tales, you know, sometimes marriages don't work out. So decided to go our separate ways, you know, we had the kids with me and all that. But then I decided, hey, I want to gig again. So I called Mark Carnell and John Patty, and we started gigging again. And it got to be really cool and stuff. And, you know, we're out there playing, and people I hadn't seen in a long time. Some had changed, some has not. Some had changed for the worse, some had not. But, you know, just playing sober was so weird because I was like, man, you know, that's how that song goes. I actually apologized to these guys. I'm like, I'm really sorry 8 years ago that I was playing the song in the wrong key, but I showed them proof that I had a house key, so I was halfway to having a key and staying in time. And so, we're out there playing the gigs, and we're playing at Brownies in Pekin, and sure enough, big bar fight breaks out, chairs flying and stuff, and this girl, the Sky, was with me. So I run out in the crowd and I pick her up and I set her on the bar and went back and finished the song. And it always happened during Stranglehold. Every time we hold Stranglehold, it's like some Rocky bell goes off in these people's heads. And me and Mark and John played for a long time together. And then John kind of went on his own thing. So we got Todd Cook, who I jammed with in Reckless. And we played for a couple, 3 years, doing gigs, Sunday Fun Days for the Biker Spot magazine, which was always cool. Jim Vance, love you, baby. And so then Joe Johnston decided, I asked Joe, hey, man, you want to play? And he's like, well, yeah. So we started gigging there, and, we did the More Sunday Fun Days, played the Country Saloon, just all these kinds of places and stuff. And, it went really well. And after a while, I think 2017, the gigs just ceased. We kind of all lost interest in playing, and my kids were doing stuff with sports, so I put the kids first, and just took this vow of sobriety. And it was really weird because after I stopped drinking and stuff, I ended up doing bartending gigs. I just threw myself in the fire, but stayed out of the fire. That doesn't make any sense, but it's okay. And it worked out well. Got the job at Keystone, cut the hair, all that stuff. So, it is what it is. But I'm happy with everything. And, where you go from there, So I'm at work one day, and a friend of mine named Rick York comes up to me, goes, hey, Jeff, man, my buddy's turning this silo into a bar up, in Langley, Illinois. And at the time it was funny because our boss's last name was Langley. So I was like, what? And, his friend Todd Bauerstein told us the same thing. So I contacted him, and we ended up going up there and playing. And man, what a cool spot. It was before all the other stuff they built on. We were like one of the first people to play up there. And it was so much fun, and it was 35 degrees, and they had 2 space heaters. So yes, it was cold, but way too much fun. And then they built it onto this train car, and we're playing up there. We had the flag behind us and stuff, and we ended up being Bake Fridays for a summer, and it clearly fit, the Baked Friday agenda, because, brothers and kids empowering discipleship. We got to spread our word of music. Thank you. And yeah, we played up there a long time. Troy, the owner, so cool, man. If I was still drinking, that would be the one place to go. But fortunately, I was the driver, so it was mostly me and Mark and Joe Johnston played up there. And Eric Tyndall, man. Eric Tyndall has made so many bands sound so great over the years. He was basically the only reason I think we gigged, because we were a decent band, I suppose, but with Eric Tyndall out there turning the knobs and stuff, it was just like, wow, man, that sounds really cool. And so major props to Eric Tyndall for everything he's ever done in his years on this earth for the music community and everything else. But yes, the Psycho Silo is probably, in my opinion, the best or only place to play in the area. Tales from the Road. Okay, Barflies. We're playing down at Pops on a Wednesday and a Thursday from 12:30 a.m. to 5:30 a.m. They had their own PA, and it was like, wow, we're playing Pops. And this band called Taking Back Sunday or Bowling for Soup or something was playing on this other big stage. Then we played, and man, what a great time. I was playing this legendary Pops. It's like, all right, playing down there. But the real fun happened after the gig when me and John Patty, we'd ride in the back of the van with no seats and seat belts because we had to guard the gear from anybody that might have came in the back and took the gear. So we went through McDonald's, and Rick, Nate ordered their thing, I ordered my thing, and I'm like, John, what do you want? And John looks his head out at the lady, the cashier lady, and John orders, may I have some Amnesty, please? So John Patty ordered Amnesty at the Sage McDonald's, and while he didn't get it, I'm still talking about it now because it was so funny. So, and on the way back from that gig, me and John, this was before all the sobriety, me and John, were drinking some Smirnoffs and stuff and singing the theme song to SpongeBob. And next thing I know, we pull over and I was like, oh man, we have to walk home. And next thing you know, this guy gets in the back of the van. So clearly we didn't do our job of guarding the gear. And we're like, who the hell are you? And apparently this guy was hitchhiking to Israel. True story. And I was like, well, I think you took, a wrong turn at Tel Aviv or whatever, So the whole way back, him and John carried on this conversation about the travel, to Israel from East St. Louis. So we got to Tremont and the SpongeBob singing had stopped, and I think I learned a couple of strange chants from the far land. And, we say, hey man, if you go into this gas station in Tremont, there's a map that'll tell you where you need to go, and then we drove away. So if that guy's out there, and, I'm really sorry, but Tremont was your place to springboard to Israel. And then we went home, and I think I slept for 14 hours. Locust Point, what a crazy place. Route 8, I think. Used to bartend out there and play out there. I think one time Nathan brought a drummer out there that I know well, that I may or may not be looking at. And we drank a little bit, and hey, it was a fun time. I didn't get a week off work, so I still had to go to work. But what a fun time. Jägermeister oatmeal cookies with Goldschlager. Try it or don't. And one time a guy came walking in. I'm from St. Louis. I can drink anything. I said, really? So we give him a Rumpelmann's and 151 in Jägermeister and Coke because we wanted it to taste nice. I said, you gotta drink it like a shot. Drank the whole thing, and we heard this. The guy fell down the stairs. Fortunately, he made it, but he went back to the arch mighty bruised. But I remember when Master of Puppets played the Infirmary downtown. How could I forget the Infirmary? All those crazy gigs. And John Schultz and Nathan and Frank and yourself. And hey, let's drink. Okay. And just trays and trays of Jäger. And Joe Downs, awesome bar owner, he's like, you can't get the band drunk because they've got to finish. I'm like, well, the band wants to be drunk and they will finish. And the band did finish and we did get drunk. Agenda complete. So, just stuff like that. Baked, going up and playing club blues. Just the drunken madness. I mean, I don't know how none of us got DUIs, to be honest with you. We always kind of drove together and stuff, and just coming back from street. We never ran off the road in cornfields that I remember. But we'd always stay in like these crappy motels and stuff, and you'd wake up and somebody'd have an ice bucket on their head, and you'd just kind of like, I don't remember that one, and just all these crazy times. And when we were in Reckless, me and Marty Gray were coming back from a gig in Havana, and there's this giant brush fire in Pekin. It burned for like a week, and we were just kind of looking at it like, well, is this a sign that we should not gig anymore? But it was not a sign because it didn't work. So just so many tales. And man, where do you go without? There's not enough buses to carry the stories. Me and Brian Goodlick, one time in Simon Bar Sinister, we were just kind of walking around. Infinity was playing. Chester Thompson, man, hey Slim, I got your back, brother. Don't worry about it. That whole kind of thing. And we're kind of wandering around their bus and kind of looking around. And nothing bad, we just had to go to the bathroom, and people didn't like it so much because, well, we went inside the bus. But what are you going to do? You had to go, and there's a chance of rain anywhere you go, and we felt that a shelter was best for us. So sorry to the people we woke up in the back of the bus, but it didn't smell that bad. So then there's the baked chicken McNugget trilogy, where we went to the drive-thrus, and Mark Carnell, congratulations on your doctorate, by the way, brother. Mark Carnell leans across me. I was driving because this is the sobriety time, and he leans off and he goes, "Excuse me, are those chickens
Are your chicken McNuggets made from chickens that are corn-fed in cages or free range? Do you force feed them corn or are they free range?
And if you ask a drive-through attendant that at McDonald's at 2 in the morning, they don't have an answer. So we didn't get an answer, so we assumed they were corn-fed because it was McDonald's, and that's what they do. So the next time after practice, we asked the same question. Still no answer. They actually went and got a manager, and he looked at us, and I was the spokesperson, asking, free range, corn-fed. We'd like an answer. We're doing a study. Nothing. Third time after a gig, we went there, and we were both talking English accents. Hey, you bloody chickens, do you put them in the cages and force feed them corn, or is it possible, that you may just have them free range where the wandering will strengthen the tendons of the chickens for the bigger McNugget? What do you say something to me, mate? I don't know what really you should say to me, but just tell me something, some bit of information. And he's like, these chickens are raised in the finest of places. They are not harmed in any way, and you're getting the finest McNuggets money has to offer. And we looked at each other, and I was like, shit. I said, well, thank you, you've killed the trilogy. And we drove away. All in all, it's just been one hell of a ride, and if I were to write a book, I wouldn't change any names, because why have code without a ring? Thanks. Local legends, wow. Dan Gruder, man, what a great player. He's got this great feeling. He's always got these amps in his tone. And I've known Dan forever. And Dan is really class act, great player. Then there's, a guy like Tony Baxter, who I took lessons from a long time ago. And man, I'm like, hey dude, do you know any Van Halen? And he plays like most of Van Halen in one note for note. And here, take my money. Would you like some blood, maybe a kidney? And he taught me all this cool stuff. Man, Tony's so great and so cool, laid back, just like Barry Gilmore. I used to sneak in and watch Exit, before I was 21. And there's this dude who's up there just ripping. He had this awesome sound and just these 212 speakers. And I was like, man, how does he get that sound? And it was mind-boggling. And then there's all these guys from Pekin. Dan Seidel, in my opinion, the best around, hands down, for like 100 to 400 miles. That's just each state. And then, Steve Campbell, phenomenal, such power and riffs and tone and stuff. And, Ryan Rose, how can we not talk about Ryan Rose? Frankenstein, and it's the fun times we had playing these gigs in Iowa and drinking tequila and just laughing, And Josh Thompson, not only can he fix it, but the dude plays like a monster. Jeez. And TJ Duckweiler, another, great player. Jeff Logston, who you just had on here, man, banjo, forget about it. Like I said, I can't count to 4, and I think I got carpal tunnel just by saying Jeff's name. He's just such a phenomenal player, Mike Means, great friend of mine for years, always had this great tone, man, and played unlike anybody else. And I swear Anthony Gomes, he opened up for Anthony Gomes or something at Champs, and I swear Anthony Gomes stole his tone, if that's at all possible or whatever. And just basically anybody from Pekin, John Bryan was a big influence on mine when I was younger, just by showing me so much stuff, in a short period of time. And, Nathan Arrington, so many stories. That's chapters 4, 5, and 6, and such a great bass player. And what a kind and cool dude. I mean, you really don't get me cooler and kinder than that, besides myself. Right. And, Paul Doran was a drummer for us at one time. Great guy. Kenny, yourself, played with us for a couple of months. I'm still working on that Jägermeister lawsuit. I got the guy. I got a guy on it. Don't worry. It was an instant replay. And man, Corey Petty, phenomenal. He knows all these crazy modes and stuff. Phenomenal guitar player. Tom Hopwood, phenomenal guitar player. Rob Robinson played in different bands with us, for years. And so good. And Dustin Waters, of course, John Patty, Todd Cook, Gary Horry, man, what do you say? Pete Ramsey. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And thanks to Jolene Skye for all that inspiration. And thanks to the girl who challenged me to learn Satellite by Dave Matthews. That's the other carpal tunnel lawsuit. And, and Tori, Tori provides so much inspiration and happiness. And, I guess the biggest factors towards, playing and inspiration and happiness, who aren't legends, but to me are my mother and father, who, when we played in the basement years ago, we actually cracked the kitchen plaster. So that's a true story. Thank God for them, and thank God for my children.